Welcome back learners. We are in the third video of module 35 of school counseling on special concerns of school counselor, the needs and importance for early identification and planning suitable intervention. The learning objectives of this video would be to become aware of issues like speech, language and communication difficulties, emotional and behavioral disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, their identification and early interventional strategies. To get acquainted with the role of the different professionals involved in planning suitable interventions. We will start the session with speech, language and communication difficulties. Successful learning is highly dependent on communication skills. Communication helps children in not only translating the world around them but also describe the world in which they live. A learner with language and speech difficulty will find it difficult to develop interpersonal relationship and share his or her ideas and feelings. Knowledge of speech and language impairment will help us in developing strategies through which we can overcome or minimize the negative impacts. Speech impairments are those conditions wherein a child faces problem in generating phonemes, that is, generating speech sounds correctly and effortlessly. Child faces problem in fluency too, that is, stuttering is a type of fluency disorder. There are conditions in which the renaissance of the sound is not proper, that is, the pitch, volume or quality of voice is not proper. Language disorders are a group of difficulties in which a child experiences difficulties in comprehending others, that is receptive language disorder. And when a child has problem while sharing its thought, propositions and emotions, the child has expressive language disorders. Language disorders may be spoken or written and may involve the form of phonology, morphology or syntax or the content, that is semantics, and or the use of pragmatics, that is the language in functional and socially appropriate ways. The identification of speech, language and communication difficulties are: the child mostly uses vowels, sounds or gestures to communicate after 1.5 year age. The voice may be hoarse, harsh or breathy. The pitch of the sound is not appropriate or inapt for either the child's age or gender. Frequent loss of voice. There are breaks in voice. Hyponasality, the sound coming from the nose is not sufficient. Hypernasality, because of soft palates. The child is tensed while speaking. The child evades speaking as he is scared of stuttering. Whereas stuttering is abnormal number of repetition, blocks and hesitation while speaking. And a child cannot process figurative language, that is use of irony, humor or metaphor. Problem in concentration, making friends and listening to others. Difficulty in following instructions and understanding abstract concepts. Evaluation. Assessment of these disorders may be formal or informal, and it may involve the use of standardized tools, observing children at play, and also child's interaction with significant others. The detection or the identification team comprises of psychologist, speech language therapist, neurologist, audiologist and pediatrician. Strategies for intervention. Number 1. Individual speech and language therapy. Working face-to-face with speech therapist is one of the best strategy for speech language disorder. The therapist design a therapy as per the gravity and the kind of problem. The goals of the therapy can be set individualistically and distinct strategy can be framed. Second one is group speech or language intervention. The first step of this intervention is to form a group which comprises of both normal and speech impaired children. Interaction of the child with speech and language disorder with other children who do not have these disorders help in acquiring better language skills within the context of a developmentally appropriate playgroup. Third is directive intervention. This approach uses specific techniques such as modeling and promoting, which helps in eliciting the desired language structure from the child. In an engineered environment, the child is presented with masked block of trial. That is, the therapist promotes and models the desired language behavior and often makes the child practice it. The child is given verbal appreciation or token to remain motivated. Fourth, a naturalistic interventions. The characteristics of naturalistic intervention approaches are providing distributed learning opportunities. This approach makes use of adult-child interaction. The professional draws upon the child's ability to read, interpret, and created occasions wherein the child can use selected language structure. With the above four interventional techniques, the counselor should counsel the parents and teachers, which should include encouraging and accepting all forms of communication, being conscious of one's own communication style. This refers to avoid using ambiguous language. Active listening skills to be taught. Think, pair, share model to be used for processing information and organizing thoughts before answering in class. Sound discrimination exercises. The parent and teachers to be taught to help the child in identifying and deciphering phonemes. Exercises such as stamping syllables in a new vocabulary, clapping and repeating the words helps in remembering the sound. Also, card games and rhyming words, bingo games, wherein the learner can match the same can be used. Sequencing and word order. The child to be guided for sequencing should be asked to accord star points to what to say and arrange them in a correct sequence. Stories can be cut and then practiced putting them in order. Using visual clues like photos and pictures to help improve the vocabulary. Build self-esteem of the child by praising good interaction and speech. Cultivate their other creativity and talents. Always check whether the learner has understood or encourage them to tell their needs. Next, we will see about emotional and behavioral disorders. It is very typical of children to be uninhibited, mischievous, obstinate, and uncooperative from time to time. Nevertheless, when such behavior becomes persistent and the degree increases, it calls for help and treatment. Such type of behaviors are called as emotional and behavioral disorders. They are oppositional defiant disorder ODD, conduct disorder CD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder ADHD. In order that a child be classed as having emotional and behavioral difficulties, the child should show one or more of the following five characteristics. Though the child's sensory, health, and intellectual faculties are normal, the child finds it difficult to learn. The child lacks the ability to develop or sustain relationship. The child exhibits incongruous behavior under normal conditions and experiences feelings which are inappropriate. A general mood of sorrow and misery is observed. The child tends to develop psychosomatic symptoms or feeling alarmed with personal and school problems. In oppositional defiant disorder, the child shows anger, annoyance, and irritation as a regular mode of behavior. They often throw temper and tantrums, bickering with adults, especially parents, declines to follow rules, poor frustration tolerance and self-esteem. They seem to deliberately annoy others. They seem to blame others for any mishappenings. Next one is contact disorder. These children are generally called as bad children as they show delinquent behavior and or not accepted of rules. The general behavior seen is frequent refusal to obey people in authority, repeated truancy, lack of empathy for others, being aggressive to animals and other people, exhibiting sadistic behavior that is bullying and physical or sexual abuse. frequent lying, neediness to start physical fights and using weapons, criminal behavior such as stealing, lighting fire, breaking into houses, and vandalism, and abusing drugs. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The characteristics of attention deficit hyperactivity disorders are inattention, inability to concentrate, forgetting instruction, switching from one activity to other without completing the earlier task, impetuous, very hasty and accident prone, overactive, constantly squimming the wriggling behavior. Diagnosis of behavior disorders. There are various behavior checklists or standardized questionnaires to assess emotional and behavior disorders. Interviewing parents, teachers, and the child can provide special support in diagnosis. Intervention strategies. Behavior disorders which remains untreated may cause severe issues during adulthood. Intervention involves the use of various therapies and psychoeducation. Some of the interventions are cognitive behavioral therapy. The CBT works on the principles of how emotion affects behavior. Parental education, guiding and instructing parents to deal with the child, especially the counselor works on the developing parents' communication skill. Family therapy. All the members of the family are supported and guided to work on their skills of communication and problem solving. Social training. The counselor guides the child to improve people's skills such as conversational skills and being cooperative. Anger management techniques to be directly imparted to the child or the adolescents. Coping mechanism, relaxation technique and stress management are the other techniques to be taught to the child. Support for comorbidity, encouraging the child to excel in his other talents or potentials, especially training to be imparted to the teachers as teachers spend more time with the child. This entails rules and routines to be established and consequences to be explained clearly for breaking rules. Classroom behavior charts. The chart is a tool which displays the behavior progress. Student who reveals positive behavior are moving towards the positive mark of continuum and vice versa. The student is himself or herself accountable for their progress. Lottery system. A simple mechanism of reward system wherein when a student behaves positively, she or he is given a token of their name. These tokens are collected in a box and are drawn out weekly. The winner of the lottery is aptly remunerated. Peer review for learning positive behavior. Students are asked to observe their friends or peers and identify positive behavior. Tolerance for others, effective interpersonal skills, and self-confidence are boosted with positive peer relationship. Instill hope. Teachers instill hope in a child when they support the child in overcoming bad behavior. They are hope agents and help students realize the past is not necessarily a curtain raiser to the future. To conclude, the problems and issues are part and parcel of life. Identification of the problem is the first step in the path of solving them. Intervention at the earliest is the second step. Intervention strategies varies with type and degree of the problem. For a strategy to be successful, family cooperation is very important. With timely identification and interventional strategies, the problem can be managed effectively. With this, I hope we all have understood the concept of the need and importance for early identification and planning suitable intervention. Thank you.